Shai Bibas is Charleston's Israel emissary, and even though he's helping people every day here in the Lowcountry, he's dealing with his own personal health issue. He has epilepsy, but he's not going to let that stop him. He's running a triathlon on his birthday. I sit down one-on-one with Shai for a special edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And be sure to download the free Quintin's Close-Ups app in your Apple or Google Play stores. And of course, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Shai Bibas, welcome to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Anytime. My good buddy Brandon Fish sent me a press release just recently on Facebook Messenger. He says this: Charleston's Israel emissary to run Charleston Triathlon in triumph over epilepsy. And it goes on to say this: tomorrow, Charleston's Israel emissary, Shai Bibas of the Jewish Agency for Israel, is running a triathlon on his birthday, and yet another personal triumph in his battle for epilepsy. Shai's story is one of the most perseverance and triumph over adversity, and we're proud to have him on the team. Why your birthday? Why triathlon?
So it started like 7 years ago. I was in the Israeli military, and I was diagnosed with epilepsy. And for a lot of time, I was sitting home, sad, didn't know what to do, and how to start my life from this point after I was diagnosed. And then for my birthday 7 years ago, my parents paid for a motivational kind of course for me that I go and maybe would help me to continue with my life. And that changed something in the way I look at life and in my future. And I decided I want to come up with a list of goals that I want to achieve. And I decided I want to do that not only for myself, but also for epilepsy patients out there, and kind of give them hope and show them and also the people around us that there is nothing that could stop us from achieving whatever we want in life. And I wrote this list, I came up with a list, and one of the things was to run a marathon. And I hate running, and I still do. But I decided that to do a marathon, so the main goal was to run a marathon, but I wanted to do that so I could cross the finish line with the flag of the Epilepsy Association and kind of show everyone that everything is possible. So for 7 months I was training. I trained for this marathon, and I flew to Prague. And it was amazing. So when I finished that, I said, now what's next? So I decided to change and do something a little bit different. And because I moved to Charleston a year ago, and I saw that you're having a triathlon going on where I live on James Island, so there is a triathlon on James Island. So I said, that's a great opportunity for me to do that, and also for my birthday. So something I would remember.
Yeah. You talk about that list. What's on the list now these days?
So one of the things on my list is to do an Ironman. The other thing is to open a business in which I want to go around and talk about my life story and share my experience and how I achieve my goals and kind of give people inspiration. That's what I do now. Basically, I started doing this in Israel, but I was volunteering in a lot of nonprofit organizations. I was going around the country. And I spoke at synagogues and nonprofit organizations, hospitals. When I moved to Charleston, I started volunteering for the Epilepsy Association in Charleston. And now I really want to open my own business in which I will help people, not only patients, to achieve their goals. That's something I really want to do.
Obviously, you're running this particular triathlon, and you just talked about inspiration. Who's inspiring you these days?
So I think that the people who are still inspiring me every day, my parents. I think these two amazing people, my dad and my mom, they came from nothing. They moved to Israel from Morocco and Egypt with nothing, and seeing them and the process they have gone through, and how they created a beautiful family and a house and a job, and it's just inspired me and still inspiring me to achieve all of my goals. And also the person that touched me a lot that's a guy in Israel. His name is Alon Ullman. He's like the Israeli version of Tony Robbins.
Okay.
And I took his course, his self-development course, which actually helped me to start and come up with a list and start achieving my goals one after another.
One after another. You talk about obviously growing up in Israel, and I know that from this particular press release that is, you were determined to become a submarine commander in the Israel Navy, but woke up one day to a new reality after being diagnosed with epilepsy, that is. How determined are you to beat this?
I'm very determined. When it happened, I had my dream to become a submarine commander, and that's something I really wanted to do even before I joined the military many years ago. It was a dream, and it was the only dream I had, when I was back in high school. And, when it happened, you suddenly feel like your life is ended. I mean, you're sitting home. I was sitting home the other, when I was diagnosed, and trying to think what's going to happen from this point on. I mean, I'm diagnosed with epilepsy. I went to the doctor. He told me, okay, Shai, just tell me what do you want to do in life, and I'll tell you if you can do that or not. So I started with saying, I want to go to university and pursue a degree. He said, listen, you can do that, but you'll have to have someone next to you in case that something would happen to you, like you get a seizure or something. I told him, listen, in Israel, after you finish the military service, you work for a little bit, save some money, and go and fly either to the States, South America, or Asia for like a year of traveling. And he said, listen, you cannot do that because you'll have to have someone with you the whole time, because who knows what would happen to you if you would go, I don't know, alone by yourself, driving or doing a hiking in the middle of nowhere, and something would happen. And from goal to goal, I kind of realized that my life was over, at the age of 21. And that's what made me, to stay home for so long, and I was afraid to even leave my house to go to the grocery store, because I said, what would happen if I'll get a seizure on my way there and people would see me? I felt so embarrassed that would happen. And that 4-day course that I took just changed my life and changed the way I look at life. And I just decided from that point on that I'm going to stop sitting home to be afraid that I'll maybe get a seizure at some point in my life, and just decided to do whatever I want to do to live the best life I can. And, if I'll get a seizure at some point, then, I'll just move on. We only live once, and I just decided that at some point, I'm not going to let these seizures defeat me.
And it also goes on to say this: forced to leave the Navy due to his condition, Shai served the rest of his military assignment in another branch. What was that other branch?
So I started in intelligence forces. After I moved from the Navy, I started in intelligence next to Gaza Strip.
Oh, yeah.
It was a very, very interesting, and I had a great time there. And, I think that everything happens for a reason in life. And I think, by moving to intelligence, I just found a new job that I never thought that we have in the military, that I actually loved. And it was one of the best things that happened to me in life.
Happened to you to this day.
Yeah.
And it also goes on to say this: determined to overcome the limitations handed to him by his doctors, Shai decided he would run and film marathon.
Mm-hmm.
How did you get yourself mentally prepared for that?
So when I decided to run a marathon, I said, I really wanted to run a marathon even before that. So I used to run 5Ks, 10Ks. It was okay. And then I decided at least 5 or 6 times before that decision, like final decision, that I wanted to do a marathon. But every time I started, I stopped after less than a month. Because to run a marathon, you need to be dedicated to the process.
Right.
And wake up 6 times a week at 4:15 a.m.
That's right.
And you have this, I didn't go out for 7 months. I stayed home. I had to go to bed at by 8 p.m. to be in bed so I could wake up at 4:15 and do my practice. And I just came to a point after this course that I took that I just decided that if it has to happen now, I have to stop, being lazy and say, okay, I'll do a marathon, and just, talk is cheap. And I just decided that at some point I really want to take it to the next level, so I found a trainer who lives next to me, and I said, listen, I found a marathon in Prague in 6 months from now. You tell me what to do. I'll practice 6 times, 7 times, 10 times a week. You tell me what to do, I'll do whatever it takes to do that. And on that, on that minute, on that second, I just went online. I ordered the tickets to Prague. I paid a lot of money for that. And he said, you should do that now, because every time you would wake up at 4 p.m. and say, oh, I want to stay in bed, I don't want to do this practice, you'll remember how much money you paid,
Right.
and that you don't have a choice, you have to be there on May 5th. So it helped me a lot.
It helped you a lot.
It helped me a lot.
I want to go back to what the press release said again. It says, determined to overcome the limitations handed to him by his doctors, Shai decided he would run a full marathon.
Mm-hmm.
What limitations do you have now?
So now the only thing I do is I take medications twice a day.
Okay.
And at the beginning, the limitations were larger. But when I came to my doctor and I said I want to do a marathon, I want to run a full marathon, he said, listen, why don't you just run 5Ks, 10Ks? You could be surrounded by people next to you if something happens.
Right.
Which makes sense. The doctor didn't want anything to happen to me in case that I would have any seizures during my training. But I was determined, and I really wanted to do this marathon. And I knew that it would be challenging for me to find someone who would be willing to run with me at 4:15 a.m. So I made a contract with my parents that every time I leave home, I'll text them. Every time I finish my practice, I'll text them. I'll send them a picture of me smiling after, so they could be calm. And I just I studied chemistry and biology at university, and so I know what epilepsy is. I know how it affects the body, and I just decided, when I said to myself before every practice, if I would feel not good, not well, I'll stop in the same second and give my parents a call. That was the agreement I made with myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't do what the doctor asked me to, but I was aware of my condition, and I was aware of my, physical conditions for the whole process.
Right.
So, yeah.
You talk about that process. It goes on to say this, the press release that is, with help from the Israeli Epilepsy Association that is, and followed by a doctor and documentary crew, Shai trained for months while simultaneously studying for his degree in chemistry and biology. Who were you at that time?
When I started training for the marathon, as I told you, one of the reasons for that was to give hope to epilepsy patients.
Sure.
So what I did, I contacted the Epilepsy Association in Israel, and I said, listen, I'm going to do this marathon. I'm epilepsy patients, and they know that because I was a member of the association back then. And I said, listen, I want to do something big. Why don't you give me a camera so I could, video myself every morning on my way to the training, and after that, and share my thoughts and my feelings with people. And you give me a T-shirt of the association. You give me a flag so I could run with that on the day of the marathon. And they said, of course, it would be a great idea. And since that moment, we started to work together. And even after I finished my marathon, I've been, traveling around the country and, giving lectures. And, I was speaking in front of patients, not only epilepsy patients, but also, cancer patients. Because on that point, it doesn't matter, what disease do you have. The point is to show everyone that no matter what you have, we have no limitations, and the only limit we have is our mind, So.
Oh yeah. You talked earlier about having a contract with your family.
Yeah.
What type of contract did you have with your doctors?
The contract I had with them, it wasn't a real contract, but it was a contract between me, my family, and God, I would say. And it was just to go to take blood tests and go to my doctor once in every 2.5 weeks. And that's something I wasn't doing before that. I used to go to my doctor every 3 months, 4 months, and I just decided that because I'm doing this marathon and it's not something easy. And I decided to do that for my family mostly, let's be honest here. I wanted my family to be relaxed, to be calm, that I'm okay. And that's why I decided to take blood tests more often and go to my doctor more often.
Obviously, you're diagnosed with epilepsy. Do you have a family history of this?
No. Nope.
Mm.
Yeah.
Who is encouraging you these days? Like I mentioned earlier, when you go out and speak to these patients, who's that patient that reminds you of you?
So 3 months ago, was it February? 4 months ago, 5 months ago, excuse me. Time flies.
Yes.
So 5 months ago, I was asked to go to the South Carolina epilepsy event. So they have their annual event where they invite doctors and students to speak and to listen to epilepsy patients, to doctors that do epilepsy, like research about epilepsy and the new findings.
Oh, yeah.
And I was interviewed. They called me to come and be the key speaker and talk about my life story. And when I was talking, I gave 1 hour and 30 minutes of speech. And at the end of that, one guy, I think it was a 21-year-old kid who raised his hand, and he told me, listen, I was just diagnosed with epilepsy, and I have 3 seizures a day, and I stopped university, I'm staying home, and I'm afraid to go out with friends, and I'm afraid to, go out with someone, because I'm just afraid and embarrassed for me to have a seizure next to my friends or next to someone to just in general. I was embarrassed to have a seizure. What should I do? And I kind of, it was the end of the lecture, so I told him, just come to me right after the lecture and we'll talk. And we switched numbers,
Right.
And we met, and I just kind of gave them all the things I've learned during this 3-day course that I was learning in Israel. I gave him everything. I translated it to English and just gave him the most important things that he, in my opinion, should do in order to, continue his life and with epilepsy. And we're still in touch till these days. And he just told me that he started going out with friends. And even, one time he told me that he went out with friends and had a seizure in the middle of the bar. And even after that, he kept going out and he started working out, something that he hadn't done for he told me 10, 15 years. The last time he was working out was at middle school.
Right.
And now he's planning on doing the half marathon, which, it reminds me of myself because, he was at the same age, and seeing him, going out and start working out, and he came up with a list that he sent me, a list of goals and dreams that he has. That's something that just shows me that anyone could do that.
Right.
You just need to think positive and just believe in yourself, and you could see that this guy didn't leave the house for 3-4 months, kind of same as I did, and now he's getting ready for his health triathlon, his health marathon. So it's amazing how talking to people could change the whole way they run their lives.
You talk about talking to people. When you do talk to people, what else are you finding about epilepsy?
So at the beginning, when I talked in front of a crowd, both patients and non-patients, I spoke about my life story. And then at some point, I decided I want to put some more information about epilepsy, especially when I speak in front of other businesses, of people who don't have epilepsy. They just want to hear a story, like a motivational story. And when I started doing that, I contacted my friends in Israel, some of the doctors I know in Israel, people who know way better about epilepsy than I do. And they just sent me so many articles to read. And it was easier for me because, as I said, as a scientist, you have to read tons of articles in English and find, the right lines to take from there, the bottom line. So it was easy for me to take all these articles and just read them and take some important sentences and things that I want to talk about. And also my personal doctor from Israel. So I gave her a phone call and we spoke, and she told me a few things that she thinks it would be good to put him on my lecture, as part of my lecture. And that's how I also got exposed to the epilepsy world, of the disease, of what we could do to prevent it sometimes, or to make our patients' lives easier.
How do you make a patient's life easier, say 5-10 years from now, with someone who has epilepsy?
So, for example, doctors say that something that it's good for epilepsy and epilepsy patients, it's good in general for everybody, is to work out. So what I did was too extreme. Doing a marathon or a triathlon or an Ironman, hopefully in the future, it's something very extreme. But something that was proved to help patients is to work out 3-4 times a week.
Sure.
It doesn't have to be, as I said, something extreme. It could be a 3K, 4K, 5K, but just start a routine of working out and eat healthy. And that's something that I always say to epilepsy patients. The first thing they should do is to get off the couch and start running, or do whatever they want to do in terms, that would keep them doing the same sport for 3-4 times a week. And that's important. And the thing with epilepsy, which is the same with almost every disease, is that we have different levels. People get different levels of epilepsy. For example, my last seizure was 5 years ago. So now the fact that I'm here in the United States doing my job, it's thanks to that. Thanks to the fact that I'm stable for like the past 5 years. But as I said, I know people who have 3, 4, 5 seizures a day. I know patients who even don't leave the hospital because they have more than 7, 8, or 9 seizures a day. So it very depends on the condition of the specific person. But in general, what I say is, if you could get out of your bed and run or do any sports, that's the first thing you should do.
What's the next thing?
The next thing, what I would do is, I think, and it's something personal, as I said at the beginning, I really think that everything is up to us and how we think about things in life. So that's the same story about the nice student that I saw at the conference, because he was sitting home for 3, 4, 5 months doing nothing. But at the second after I kind of showed him a few methods that he could use, in terms of the self-motivation and self-development, he started going out, started running, he went back to university because he said, who cares? So I'll get a seizure. Who cares? I want to achieve. I want to get my degree. I want to run half marathon. I want to go out with friends. So I think that more than everything, going to these courses, or even go on YouTube, because that's what I did at the beginning, and that's what I still do every morning. Every morning I have a morning routine. The first thing I do is write the 5 things I'm thankful for. That's something very important for everyone, not only for patients, to do. And the second thing I do is to just go out and run and do something that makes me, when I run, I think about life. I think about what I want to do this day, what I want to achieve. I changed my thinking, and I changed my thought from what I'm going to do today. Okay, I'm going to go to work, I'm going to then go get groceries, and then I'm going to go home and sit in front of TV, to what I'm going to achieve today. So changing the mind from what I'm going to do to what I'm going to achieve, at least for me, changed the whole way I think about life. For me, every day is a day where I'm going to achieve something. It doesn't have to be something huge, like doing a marathon, doing a triathlon, doing an Ironman, becoming the president of the United States. But achieve small things that will make us and our and the people around us better.
You talk about people around you. If someone were to be around you and know your story, how should they help you out?
I think, my best friends in Israel now, I think they helped me a lot at the beginning, especially at the beginning. First, when you're diagnosed with epilepsy, you need good friends to stand behind you and support you. And I'm blessed to have such great friends who were there for me and supported me for the whole time. And I think also, throughout life, since I was diagnosed, my friends are always for me, calling me, how was your practice? How was your training?
Right.
Send us pictures.
Right.
And it's fun. It feels great, that your friends in Israel text you, how was your practice? And you're like, oh, you remember that I had a swim today, that I had a running training.
Yeah.
It makes me feel good to have friends like them. And I think that everyone should have, this group of friends. And if you're not an epilepsy patient and you have a friend who's a patient or patient of any other disease, you should know that you have to be for your friend, because what makes us stronger, it's you guys, the people around us.
Right. And I know obviously the triathlon is tomorrow, and when I ran a couple of marathons years ago, you had to raise a lot of money. But how do you keep raising money after this? How can we help you out financially?
So thank God, I work and I could allow myself, sign up for all these triathlons. But when I do these, when I did the marathon and now doing the triathlon, one of the goals of me doing that, besides the fun of having that and achieving a goal and helping epilepsy patients and give them hope, it's also to help organizations that I appreciate and I love in the city, in Charleston especially, because I moved to Charleston a year ago and I've been working for Charleston Jewish Federation here in town, and I just fell in love with this organization because I think that at the beginning when I moved here, I thought that this organization helps only the Jewish community. But what I found out is that they help so many other the whole community of Charleston. And I decided that I want to do this triathlon and raise money for Charleston Jewish Federation, because I think that we do, and my coworkers they do an amazing job. And I started a fundraiser for my birthday, asking people to donate money for Charleston Jewish Federation. And I was so happy and excited to see how many people, Jewish and not Jewish, who donated money and supported this important cause and this important organization for me. And it's just beautiful to see how the community comes together, when we talk about such an important things like that. And I was very happy and excited to see that the community came together to help me out.
Well, that's good to hear, and good luck to you tomorrow.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Anytime. Well, Shai Bibas, thank you so much for your time, and again, welcome to Quintin's Full Subs. Hope to have you back again.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Yes, sir.